tonight? Well, let's talk to Elohim, and we'll jump into something very important. Very important. Torah portion, Fikudei. Fikudei. It all depends on whether they put the little dot in the pay or not. So, Father, thank you for this time that we have together. This time to learn. This time to be advised. This time to understand. Open our eyes, Father, our ears and our hearts, so we can see, hear, and understand what your word tells us. But not only that, that we take the time to take the action that we're to take without waiting for you to tell us. We thank you in the name of Yahusha. Amen. You know, it's interesting that he had to go on with one more tune, because I listen to the songs, and I'm saying, okay, speak to me, boss. You know, these two have to mix, and I haven't heard anything. I'm saying, okay, well, yeah, I felt, I don't know if you guys have ever watched The Voice, where, you know, the judges have to turn around. So I'm sitting here, I haven't pressed my button because there's nothing there. But then he does that next song, and it's exactly what's going on. All I want to do is come and worship you, and my grandmother's the Pope. Right? Okay? Let's consider that concept in the context of Fikudei. What happens in Fikudei? Okay, so up to this point, we've gotten all the instructions for building the tabernacle. All the materials have been gathered, and here it tells us that in Fikudei, it tells us in 38:22 that it was Bezalel, and in 23 it was Oholiab that were responsible for putting this all together. Bezalel means in the image and likeness of Elohim. Oholiab means the tent of the Father. Okay? So we build this tabernacle, which is interesting the way it's in the Messianic text on your sheet, but I have something that's a little bit more accurate. It says, these were the and this is verse 21, these were the appointments of the Mishkan of the witness. Okay, the Mishkan of the witness. We've talked about that everything that we've considered in the last 3 Torah portions is about us and the witness, the testimony that we put forward. So these are the appointments of the witness. These are the things that are supposed to be placed within the tabernacle. Okay, so we've got the construction, we've got all that stuff now. Fikudei, 2 things happen in Fikudei. First of all of the furnishings and all of the utensils and all of the stuff is put in its proper place. Okay? They finish the Mishkan, they move everything in. They're moving in the furniture. And it's all set in its proper place. The interesting thing about this is that once it's all put in its proper place, it says, and then he sacrificed on the altar, and then he lit the incense. Okay, it doesn't tell us who he is. Rashi argues that it was Moses. Other rabbis argue that it was Aaron. I'll argue that it really doesn't make a difference. Okay? Because the point of that, they move all the furniture into this Mishkan that they prepared, and there's no commandment given for them to make the offering. They go and they make the offering the way they're supposed to make the offering. So, this is why this little verse kind of hit me. All I want to do is come and worship you. Is that true? Okay? They went and they made an offering without being told to do it, without being asked to do it. They did it. They took the initiative to move towards Elohim. They offered up incense without being commanded to do it. They took the initiative. They did it the right way, because we know what happens when you do it the wrong way, because, you know, you get all burned up, according to what the Torah tells us. But Fikudei, as a Torah portion, okay, is different than the last three that we've considered. The last three are about construction and preparing ourselves to receive the Shekinah. Fikudei is about the Shekinah entering in and inhabiting it. Okay? And that's what this lesson is all about. But this is very important. We've prepared ourselves. We have our ducks in a row. We know where our furniture's at. Am I waiting for Elohim to tell me, hey, you haven't spoken to me in, 2 or 3 days. You need to come talk to me. Or am I willing to not wait until he says, hey, where are you? Am I willing to begin to serve without having to be told? And that's why this really rang out. So Fikudei, we're going to look at Shemot 38:21 and Shemot 40:17. And we're going to consider 2 verses specifically in order to learn 2 important lessons. The first is that we must constantly be aware of what our tabernacle contains and its value. And second, that we must be aware that simply because we perceive our work to be done, that there's always something to do. Okay? So we begin with the verse for the Torah portion, and it starts, Ala Fikudei. These are the accounts of the tabernacle, even the tabernacle of the testimony, which is another word for witness, as they were rendered according to the commandment of Moses through the servants of the Levites by the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. Okay, so it sounds like there's a whole lot of middlemen in the way. Okay? And let's take a look at this to find out that there aren't any middlemen in the way. Okay? First of all, we have this word for accounts, Fikudei, that aside from accounts means, from its root pakad, to pay attention, to review, to deposit, to watch over, and to commit to care. This word, however, also has a negative side. It means to seek in vain or out of vanity, to lack, to need, or to become empty, a lack of judgment, and an oversight. Okay? So we have this thing is we can commit something to our care and pay attention, or we can overlook it. It's an oversight. I didn't see it. Okay, so how carefully are we paying attention? So as with everything else, we're presented with a choice. And if we consider that the tabernacle is a representation of ourself and our life, then we must constantly be aware of, take account of which set the definitions. Let's try that again. We must take account of which set of the definitions we are paying attention to. Are we paying attention to the positive definitions, or are we paying attention to the negative definitions? In this decision, we have to consider the first word of this verse, which is these, from the word ele. Now, if we take a look at the Proto-Hebrew of this word, it represents looking with interest at guidance or instruction. So we have the little hey, the little guy with his hands up in the air, saying, hey, I'm over here, pay attention. And then we have the shepherd's goat, which is the lamed, guidance. Lamed is one of the Hebrew words that means instruction, teaching, okay? So looking with interest, paying attention at guidance or instruction. More specifically, looking with interest towards guidance or instruction. Both of these concepts offer us good advice as well as a word of caution. We can receive guidance and instruction that fulfills the first category of definitions for the words Fikudei, or we can receive guidance and instruction from a corrupted source that will tip the scales into the second category of definitions. Which takes us back to the first question asked in the Torah, where are you? Okay, where are you? And again, we've asked this question many times, but we've also asked another very important question. Why do I believe what I believe? Am I believing it simply because somebody told me? Or do I believe it because all I want to do is come and worship you, that I have taken the time myself to have a conversation with Elohim, to go to his word, to break it down and to understand it and say, okay, well, what I believe is valid, or what I believe is a bunch of bunk and I need to boot it out the door. Okay? So in this, we have to carefully consider the phrase, the tabernacle of the testimony. The word for the testimony is ha'edut, that from the root ad means a witness as well as evidence. This is the key to testing or taking an account of everything that we learn or are taught. Okay? Just because I'm the one up here teaching doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be right. I can look at stuff that I've taught, 5, 10 years ago, even recently, and say, I need to revise that because it's not exactly right. Okay? So ultimately, you're responsible for being the one who pays attention to what you are being taught, right? Okay? When Yahushua was asked, what's the most important commandment? He doesn't spout off a commandment. He actually spouts off the Shema. Okay? He makes a statement. But within the Shema, as we've talked about in the past, that is a very important suggestion. Remember, there's no stern commandments in the Torah. They're suggestions. We have the choice to do them or not. If we were forced to do them, then we would no longer have free will. Okay? We're in the image and likeness of Elohim. That means we have the ability and capacity to choose. But the Shema, if we look, we talked about it last week. We've probably talked about it the week before last. But it's so important because we look at this, the last letter of Shema is enlarged, the last letter of Echad is enlarged, and it spells Ad, meaning witness or testimony. So what we gather from this is to take true account, we must Shema. We must not only hear, but perceive, discern, and understand what we're taught, or the source from which we're receiving the instructions. Again, why do I believe what I believe? Okay? How is this going to affect my ability to have a desire to worship my Elohim? Okay? And this has to line up with the word of Yahuwah Elohim. We look at the gematria of the word Echad. Okay, gematria, the geometry. Remember, all Hebrew letters are numbers, and they all, correspond with each other. If we add up the letters in Echad, we come up with 13. The 13th letter of the Aleph Beit is Mem, that represents the word. And this word is one with Yahuwah, the name that means existence, as well as everything there is, was, and will be. Our existence in everything at every time depends on the Shema. That's why Yahushua said, this is important. It's probably the most important thing there is. That's why I'm going to give it to you. Because if you don't have this, then you can't do the second part, which we call the Ve'ahavta, and you will love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. I can't do that if I don't know anything about the tabernacle and where the utensils are placed and everything else. I have to be able to answer, where are you, before I can love my Elohim with all my heart, my soul, my mind, and my strength. And the second commandment is the way that helps me to love Elohim even more, is that I love my neighbor as I love myself. Okay? So, if we take all that and put it together, if what we learn takes us away from or distracts us from understanding that Yahuwah is our Elohim and that He is one with His Torah, that in everything at every time He is our mighty judge who has the authority to redeem us, deliver us, and restore us by and through His word in His name, Yahusha, which means Yahuwah redeems, delivers, and restores, then we must reevaluate what we're studying and learning, as well as the source from which it is coming. This is taking account, taking an inventory of the gold and silver in our tabernacle. What does my tabernacle contain? Okay? How do I approach my Elohim? Am I worshiping the Father in spirit and in truth? Okay? This becomes a very important idea. Moses arranged the furniture according to the instructions? Is my furniture arranged according to the instructions? Because only then am I going to be in a position where I can offer without being asked to do so. Okay? All right. The name Moses, Moshe, means to draw from or to draw out. The word P is used in this phrase to say according to the commandments, but literally it means mouth. This phrase actually means or reads from the mouth of Moses. It's very important because we read this and we say, these were the commandments of Moses. Moses commanded them. No, these came from the mouth of Moses. Okay? He did not command. Yahuwah commands and Moses delivers the message. I don't command. Okay? I simply speak. And you have a lot of pastors and rabbis that get the big head, say, I'm in charge. You'll do as I command. The fact is, they don't command. It's my church. No, it's not. You've been charged with the care and maintenance of some people. They don't belong to you. Okay? This is what it's saying. Moses led them, but Moses delivered the message from Elohim. Moses didn't command. Okay? So, Yahuwah commands, Moses delivers the message. Moses is a type for the word of Yahuwah. The word that precedes P is al. This word means according to, but also means on account of and concerning. So considering this, the word P also means the presence of. But before we go forward, let's consider that the word that precedes these two words in the verse is the word pukad, that in this phrase is used to say rendered. So as we considered earlier, this word gives us a choice between a positive, to pay attention, to review, to deposit, to watch over, to commit to care, and the negative, to seek in vain, out of vanity, to lack, to need, or to become empty, a lack of judgment, and an oversight. So if we consider the letters in the word for according, which is al, then we can consider that it is from our perception of instruction. We have an ayin. That ayin is a Hebrew word for eye, means to perceive, to see. And we have a lamed, that again means instruction. So the perception of instruction, that we draw out information from the word of Yahuwah to guide us towards or away from the presence of our Elohim. Okay, so if all I want to do is come and worship you, and I come and worship according to the word and according to the correct placement of the furniture, and I take the initiative to do it, then I worship the Father in spirit and in truth, and that, according to Yahushua, is what the Father is looking for. But if I don't do it, if I simply do it out of vanity because I want everyone to see me worshiping, so they'll think that I'm all that in 2 bags of potato chips, I'm like the Pharisees that have the long tassels that drag on the ground, and they're praying, and they go in and they say, thank you that I'm not a sinner like that tax collector. Okay, so where am I? How am I approaching my Elohim? Where is everything set up? Is it in the right order? So this takes us back to the need to understand why we believe what we believe, as opposed to simply knowing what we believe. In our study of taking inventory, in our study of Yehezekiel, we consider the difference in what we see as opposed to what we think we see. Taking inventory becomes a very important part of our relationship with Yahuwah our Elohim. As it is, through our correct understanding of His Word, that we move forward or backward. Okay? Yehezekiel, we studied that a ways back. But our study in the first chapter of Yehezekiel dealt with, everyone's talking about, the chariot and all this other stuff. And we broke that down and found out, wow, it doesn't have anything to do with a chariot. It has something to do with my ability to perceive Elohim and my ability to make my way to His throne. Okay? Just because I perceive it, because I've read commentaries that say I should perceive it this way, doesn't mean that that's what it says. So, does it say what it actually says, or does it say what I think it says? Okay? Or does it say what I want it to say, which is even worse? Okay? I want to justify something. So, in order to justify it, I'm going to switch some words around here, because you've probably heard this a time or two. God told me. The Spirit put it on me. And now I have justification to do whatever it is I want to do. Okay? Is it true? Okay? But anyway, all right, get off the soapbox. All right, so the Hezekiah did blah, blah, blah. Taking inventory becomes a very important part of our relationship with Yahuwah Elohim, as it is through our correct understanding of His Word that we move forwards or backwards. We move towards our Elohim, or we become separated from our Elohim. Okay? We become echad, we become in unity with our Elohim, or we become separated from our Elohim. Okay? Cut off. So with this in mind, we'll explore the next phrase of this verse. It says, through the service of the Levites. We begin with the word again, avodat, in this phrase that's used through the service. This word is an important word as it illustrates consequence of actions. The word avodat is rooted in the word avodah, that means to serve. It is the root of this word that offers the choice of consequence. It means to serve as a subject of a kingdom, or to be compelled to slavery through transgression. All I want to do is come and worship you. How do I come and worship? Do I come and worship because I've taken the time to become Betzalel, the image and likeness of Elohim? I've taken the time to be Oholiab, the tent of the Father. I've taken the time to arrange the furniture where it should be. I've taken the time to listen to the instructions, and now I'm following through with the instructions according to the instructions and offering, because all I want to do is worship. And I'm offering it, but I'm offering it the correct way, as opposed to the other side of that, which is, am I compelled? Why do I have a relationship with my Elohim? Because I have to, or because I want to? Okay? You know, with my wife because I want to be with my wife, not because I have to be with my wife. I don't have to do things I don't want to do. Okay? Although I may feel compelled to do them, I don't have to necessarily. And this is the consequence of choice. That in a relationship with Elohim, it's a relationship of freedom. And it's built and based on love, but it's also built and based on me being able to follow the directions of the Word. In other words, to be able to shema and to shamar. All right. So, to be a subject of the kingdom or compelled to slavery through transgression. The key to choice here is found in the word for Levites, which is Haleviim. This word means to join or to be attached from the root lewi. This allows us to expand the idea that we're developing to say that our perception of instruction, from where we draw our information from the word of Yahuwah, will guide us towards or away from the presence of our Elohim. Taking inventory becomes a very important part of our relationship with Yahuwah Elohim, as it is through our correct understanding of His word that we move forward or backward. This attaches us to either service as a subject in the kingdom of Elohim, or enslaves us to the bondage of transgression, which we can further define as being enslaved to the enticements of the Satan. Okay? Why do I want to have a relationship with Yahuwah my Elohim? I know some people that go to church because it is a social outlet. You know, I'm not going to church, I'm going to LinkedIn. Okay? I'm not going to church. I'm going to Facebook. I'm going to pass out business cards while I'm there. Okay? What compels me to have a relationship with my Elohim? I can say, because I believe that Elohim exists. That's nothing. That's cuckoo. I believe there's dinosaurs in the Amazon forest. Becomes important when I become aware of the presence of Elohim in my life. More importantly, when I become aware that Elohim is aware of me. Then I want to have a relationship because it's something real. Not just based on, Grandma told Mama and Mama told me that God's real. I have a relationship because I can feel that presence. And because of that, all I want to do is come and worship you. But I want to do it according to your word, because if the presence of Elohim is real to me, then his word has to be real to me. And I have to be able to look at it and understand what it says in order to apply it the way it's supposed to be applied. So this idea leads us to the last phrase that says, by the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. Ithamar. All I can see is Aladdin with genie. The first word to consider in this phrase is bayad, that means in the hand, as opposed to by the hand. And this is important, as it is in the meaning of this word that we have to begin. The root of bayad is yad, that aside from hand also means strength and power. It also means direction, as in the direction that we receive through the good or bad instruction. In this case, it is in the direction, strength, and power of Ithamar. Ithamar comes from the root tamar. Did I go? Yeah. Whoops, let's go back up. Okay, ith means coast or palms, which has a definition, but as a definition doesn't yield much. Okay, so we look at coast of palms. The name is formed from two roots. The first is E, meaning habitable, which still gives us a little information, but its root awa, that means to incline or to desire. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. The second root of Ithamar is tamar, that means palm tree or date. Both of these are types for blessing, but they're not the definition that we're looking for. There's an unused root of tamar that means to be upright, and it is this root that we can begin to formulate an idea. This idea is a very important one and deals with our free will. We must first desire to be upright, then we must incline ourselves to be. This requires us to take that inventory so that we enter into the presence of Yahuwah and are surrounded and filled with his anointing. Okay? Very important. The first step, I have to be upright, and then I have to incline myself to continue to be upright. All right? With this in mind, we can apply the last part of this verse. It says, the son of Aaron the priest. The word for son is ben, that from the root bana means to be established and restored. The name Aaron means light giver. And it is a type for the Ruach HaKodesh. I had a corny joke in the back of my head, and I said, no, let's not go with it. So the name Aaron means light giver. It's a type for the Ruach HaKodesh. The word HaKohen, used for priest, also means to minister and to teach, and its root kahan means to mediate. Adding these definitions into the idea that we're developing gives us a final idea of we must first desire to be upright, and then we must incline ourselves to be ministered to and taught by the Ruach HaKodesh that brings us light. It is in this that we are restored and established in our relationship with Yahuwah, our Elohim. Okay? Very important. I have to be inclined to shamar, to treasure, guard, observe, and preserve what the Torah says. More important than simply the other definition we get. I'm going to keep the Torah. shamar. I'm going to treasure the Torah. I'm going to preserve it. When you preserve something, you try to keep it in its natural state. And then I'm going to observe what it says.